The dream I imagined for a long time.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm very relieved that it's over. It was a very, very long process, and I'm very happy that it's over.
Why Marion University? What was it that stuck out?
So right when I got on campus, I knew probably 20 minutes in that it was going to be the place I would spend the next 4 years at. It felt like home. I loved the girls. I connected with the coach really well, and I just felt really happy there. So yeah.
Madison Brooks was a kind of person who lit up every room she walked into, a beloved sorority sister, a devoted student, and a cherished daughter. What happened to her wasn't just a crime. It was a failure of multiple systems, of social accountability, of bar oversight, of bystander responsibility. Her story isn't just tragic, it's infuriating, sobering, and ultimately a call for change. Let's explore the life and death of Madison Brooks, the events leading to her assault and untimely death, the public's outcry, and the lessons society must learn to ensure this never happens again. This story is not for the faint of heart, but it is for those who care deeply about justice, safety, and the value of a young woman's life. Madison Brooks was a bright, energetic 19-year-old student whose life was full of promise. A sophomore at Louisiana State University, LSU, she was pursuing a degree in kinesiology, a field that reflected her passion for health, movement, and helping others. Madison was not only academically focused, but also socially active. She was a proud member of the Alpha Phi sorority, where she formed close bonds with her sisters and became known for her warm, outgoing nature. Friends and fellow students often described her as the kind of person who could light up a room with her smile, vibrant, friendly, and full of life. Her time at LSU, like for many college students, represented a season of growth, independence, and exploration. Madison was building a future for herself, one that her family and friends believed would be marked by success and service. She had plans, dreams, and a loving support system behind her. Her presence in the LSU community was not just noted, but deeply valued. In many ways, Madison represented the best of what a university experience could offer: education, community, and hope. But all of that came to a tragic and shocking end on January 15, 2023. After a night out in Baton Rouge, Madison's life was cut short in circumstances that would soon become a subject of national outcry.
New tonight, an update in the case of Madison Brooks. The LSU student died after being hit by a car in January of 2023. Through the investigation, police learned that she had gotten into a vehicle with 4 suspects earlier that night. Rape charges were eventually filed against all 4, but now an attorney for one of those men claims someone else had sex with Brooks the day before she died, causing injuries that are now being used to indict the 4 men. The district attorney says the filing is totally inappropriate, adding that any motion discussing a victim's past sexual behavior should be kept separate and sealed.
What began as a typical evening of socializing quickly spiraled into a heartbreaking and deeply troubling series of events. Madison was later found injured along a roadway, and despite emergency efforts, she would not survive. The shock of her passing spread rapidly, not just within the LSU campus, but across the country. Her death raised urgent questions about campus safety, alcohol culture, and the responsibilities of bars and nightclubs that serve college-age patrons. It triggered discussions on consent, personal responsibility, and institutional accountability. Madison Brooks' story became more than a personal tragedy. It became a rallying cry for change. Her name, now known beyond her circle of friends and family, stands as a reminder of how quickly a life can be lost and how crucial it is to address the systems and behaviors that allowed it to happen. The events of the night Madison Brooks lost her life began, like many others, for a college student enjoying a weekend. On the evening of January 14, 2023, Madison went out to Reggie's Bar in Baton Rouge, a popular local establishment often frequented by LSU students. The venue was lively, filled with music, drinks, and the carefree energy of young adults blowing off steam. For Madison, the night was intended to be fun, just another moment of college life. But things quickly took a tragic turn. At some point during the evening, Madison became visibly intoxicated. Witnesses and surveillance footage later revealed that she was struggling to maintain balance and appeared impaired. It was during this vulnerable moment that she encountered a group of young men. Kyvon DeAndre Washington, then 18, and 3 others, Everett Lee, Kason Carver, and a minor who was 17 at the time. These individuals were also patrons of Reggie's and had reportedly been drinking. According to statements given to police, the group offered Madison a ride home. However, instead of taking her directly home, what followed was a devastating betrayal. According to the arrest affidavits, Madison was allegedly raped in the back seat of a car by at least 2 members of the group, including Kyvon Washington.
2 days, a grand jury will convene in Baton Rouge to decide whether to bring formal charges against 3 men accused of raping LSU student Madison Brooks. She died last month after she was hit by a car on Burbank Drive. Chris Nakamoto in the investigative unit here now with a look at that turning point and what the defense says about one piece of potential evidence.
Michael, the district attorney has said all along this is one case that would go before the grand jury to get formal charges in place. And we can tell you tonight it's happening this week. But defense attorneys are already looking beyond any possible indictments to a trial. And a short piece of video recorded that January night is likely to play a key role if that does take place. We do want to note this report addresses the subject of rape and includes content that some may find unsettling.
Let's get the officer a call, let them know that we'll turn them in.
Lawyers say this video was a crucial piece of evidence because you can hear Madison Brooks communicating with the suspects.
I'm sorry that I offended you that bad. Get out. I will Uber on my own.
This is video of LSU student Maddie Brooks taken inside the vehicle on January 15th.
I'm sorry that your feelings got hurt.
When police say she was raped after a night of drinking at an off-campus bar. Defense lawyers released it to WBRZ.
Tell me, how did you hit this girl in the car?
Telling us the 3 men and 1 teenage minor in the car recorded it after 2 of them had sex with her. Brooks died shortly after this video was taken. Another video previously seen shows Brooks leaving the Tigerland bar Reggie's headed for the suspect's car.
Speaking, engaging in conversations, using very vulgar language to the driver of the vehicle, insulting the driver of the vehicle, implying that the driver of the vehicle is not straight based on him not wanting to engage in certain activities with her. Again, it doesn't put anybody in the best light, but again, not being put in the best light isn't the same thing as rape.
Prosecutors say Brooks was too drunk to consent, and they arrested the teenager and 3 young men on rape charges. Lab reports show her blood alcohol level was .319. A lawyer representing Brooks' family recently told us there is no gray area in this case.
You know, under Louisiana law, this was rape, and we were deeply offended by blaming the victim in statements regarding that had she not been hit, she wouldn't have complained of things. We thought that was deeply offensive, inappropriate, and just plain wrong.
District Attorney Hiller Moore has echoed those sentiments.
It's just like we handle murder cases. We don't have, murder victims that say I consented to being killed or shot at.
Lawyers representing 3 of those charged with rape say their clients maintain their innocence.
It is important to note that the video we just showed you was not mentioned in any of the arrest reports for the individuals charged with Brooks' rape. But defense attorneys do believe it was seen by detectives who investigated the case. District Attorney Hiller Moore could not comment on the secretive grand jury proceedings that are set for Wednesday. Michael?
Investigators say she was too impaired to give consent and was in no condition to protect herself. Following the assault, Madison was left on the side of the road near a subdivision on Burbank Drive, alone and still vulnerable. At approximately 3 a.m., she was struck by a rideshare vehicle. She later died in the hospital from her injuries. The details that emerged in the aftermath were harrowing. Investigators used surveillance footage, location data, and witness testimony to piece together the sequence of events. One of the young men, Kason Carver, admitted to police that Madison was very unstable on her feet and that he felt uncomfortable with how things unfolded, yet he did not stop what was happening. These accounts raised disturbing questions about the bystander effect, accountability, and how group dynamics can sometimes silence moral judgment. The level of impairment Madison had, combined with the predatory decisions made that night, turned what could have been a safe return home into a fatal trap. The failure of the individuals involved to act responsibly or protect another human being in distress is what made the public, and especially other college students, feel a chilling sense of vulnerability. Her tragic death wasn't just about one crime. It was about a chain of bad choices, the abuse of power, and the fatal consequences of failing to intervene when someone clearly needs help. The public reaction to Madison Brooks' death was swift, emotional, and widespread. As soon as the details began emerging about her alleged sexual assault, her condition when left on the road, and her untimely death, anger and heartbreak reverberated across Louisiana and beyond. Madison's name began trending on social media platforms, with users expressing outrage, sorrow, and disbelief. Many were particularly disturbed that such a tragedy occurred in a college town, involving young people barely out of high school. The community mourned not only the loss of a promising young woman, but also the broader failure of moral responsibility among her peers. Students at Louisiana State University, where Madison was a sophomore, organized vigils in her memory. The LSU community stood in solidarity, lighting candles, sharing memories, and calling for greater protections for students, especially young women. Her sorority, Alpha Phi, issued a heartfelt statement describing Madison as a bright light in their chapter, someone who brought joy and compassion to those around her. Their grief was profound, and their message was clear. Madison's life should not have ended this way, and something must change to ensure this never happens again. The legal response also gained attention. Within days of the incident, Kyvon Washington was arrested and charged with third-degree rape, alongside charges for the other individuals involved. Public outcry only intensified when it was revealed that Kyvon had previously been accused of another rape, which hadn't yet led to prosecution. This detail sparked even greater scrutiny of how sexual assault allegations are handled, especially when the accused is a minor or young adult. Critics asked how someone previously accused of such a serious crime could be out in the community, potentially free to reoffend.
Reporting also from the investigative unit tonight, prosecutors scored a big victory in the Madison Brooks case. Brooks is the LSU student who died after a night of drinking in a Tigerland bar 2 years ago. She was seen on video leaving a bar with 4 men. Those 4 eventually arrested, 3 of them charged with rape. A short while later, she was dropped off near a neighborhood and then killed by a passing car. Bess Casserly here with what today's ruling means for the prosecution's case.
Michael, 19-year-old Brooks was an LSU student who was hit and killed by a car after a night of drinking at Tigerland in 2023. 3 men, including Kason Carver and Desmond Carter, were indicted for raping her before they dropped her off on Burbank that night. 8 months since a Baton Rouge judge ruled that the state must hand over evidence to the defense concerning Brooks's sexual history. An appeals court has ruled that evidence is not admissible. The First Circuit says evidence of Brooks's alleged past sexual behavior will not be permitted in the trials of Carver and Carter. Last year, Carver's attorney filed a motion alleging that her injuries could have come from an alleged encounter with an unidentified LSU student the night before she met his client. The contents of that motion have been sealed and will not be heard for now, given this new ruling. District Attorney Hiller Moore sent WBRZ a statement saying, quote, "We're pleased with the court's ruling that will prohibit defendant from introducing overly prejudicial and irrelevant evidence at the trial." Both Carter and Carver have a status conference on April the 9th. For the investigative unit, Bess Casserly, WBRZ News 2.
Reggie's Bar, the place where Madison had spent her final hours, also came under fire. The establishment's liquor license was suspended, and it was later permanently shut down by the state's Office of Alcohol and Tobacco Control. Officials cited the bar's history of underage drinking violations and inadequate safety protocols. For many, the closure of Reggie's symbolized a small step toward accountability, but it was not enough. Parents, advocacy groups, and community leaders began demanding systemic changes. Better training for bystanders, stricter enforcement of underage drinking laws, and more robust campus safety measures. Madison's case ignited a cultural reckoning that forced individuals and institutions alike to confront their roles in preventing such tragedies. The tragedy of Madison Brooks' death illuminated critical gaps in awareness, accountability, and protection for young adults, particularly on college campuses. One of the most glaring lessons centers around the concept of consent. Consent must be clear, sober, and freely given. Madison was visibly intoxicated and incapable of making coherent decisions, yet those around her failed to recognize or respect this fact. Her story reinforces the urgent need for comprehensive consent education, starting in high schools and reinforced through college orientations and ongoing student programming. Another key takeaway is the role of bystanders. In this case, multiple individuals were present during Madison's final hours, yet no one intervened in a meaningful way. Whether out of fear, peer pressure, or indifference, the failure to act allowed preventable harm to unfold. This underscores the importance of bystander intervention training, empowering students to recognize unsafe situations and step in or seek help. Universities across the country have begun integrating such training into student life initiatives, but Madison's story proves more needs to be done to make intervention the norm rather than the exception. The incident also exposed systemic weaknesses in establishments that serve alcohol to young adults. Reggie's Bar, known for its history of underage drinking and lax enforcement, should never have become a setting where vulnerable students were put at risk. This tragedy has prompted regulatory agencies and state lawmakers to push for stronger oversight of nightlife venues near college campuses. These include stricter ID verification processes, more visible security presence, and harsher penalties for repeated violations. Some universities are also re-evaluating their partnerships with nearby businesses to ensure student safety is prioritized. The case demonstrates the lasting impact of unchecked behavior and the legal system's challenges in deterring repeat offenses. Kai Von Washington had already been accused in a separate rape case, yet he remained free. The public now demands more rigorous screening and faster responses to sexual assault allegations. Advocates are calling for dedicated campus safety task forces, victim support resources, and improved coordination between law enforcement and educational institutions. Madison Brooks' death, while heartbreaking, has become a painful catalyst for a much-needed conversation about how society protects, or fails to protect, its most vulnerable members. The death of Madison Brooks was not only a personal tragedy for her family and friends, but also a powerful wake-up call for an entire nation. Her vibrant spirit, promising future, and the senseless circumstances surrounding her final moments have etched a permanent scar in the hearts of those who knew her and many who did not.
A mother is turning her tragedy into triumph. Madison Brooks, an LSU student and North Shore native, died earlier this year after a night out. According to the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office, Brooks was raped before she was hit and killed by a car. Brooks had a blood alcohol limit 4 times the legal limit. WDSU reporter Adam Siddiqui has more in a story you'll only see right here on WDSU.
For Ashley Boaster, it's been a long 4 months without her firstborn and best friend, Madison Brooks.
Maddie was brave, she was strong, she was fearless.
Madison's life was cut short in January after a night of drinking at Tigerland on LSU's campus. Police reports from the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office show Brooks was dropped off at a subdivision, then hit and killed by a car. Records show when she got to the hospital, her blood alcohol level was 4 times the legal limit. 4 suspects are charged with raping Brooks moments before she was killed. In the bar Maddie spent her final moments at, temporarily losing their liquor license for serving alcohol to those underage.
I see life now as 2 parts, the life I had before she died and the life that I'm living now.
Her mother, Ashley, now starting the Madison Brooks Foundation.
We want to provide a scholarship for someone in need, to advocate for the safety of young adults, and to spread awareness for the gift of organ donation, which Maddie was able to donate her heart valves and her kidney.
In light of the tragedy, Senator Beth Mizell is proposing the bill CARDM, which stands for Create Alcohol Responsibility and Deterrence. This would ban anyone under the age of 21 entering Louisiana bars.
I think to walk away from that without responding to all the errors that were made in the way the system worked that night would be irresponsible on our part.
Mizell says she understands raising the age limit will create challenges with businesses, but she says she will fight to help save lives.
You cannot say we're following the law and we care about young people who come into our bar, and be totally irresponsible with the way that you serve. So
it starts at the bar. How was she served that much? How did she get in this condition? If Maddie wouldn't have been there, none of this would have happened in the first place.
Anam Siddiqui, WDSU News.
Autumn, thank you. The Madison Brooks Foundation is holding one of its first events tomorrow night at LSU's Union Theater. Speakers will address topics like sexual assaults and consent. You'll find more information about this on our website, WDSU.com, and the WDSU mobile app. Police say the investigation into her death remains ongoing.
Madison was a daughter, a friend, a student, and a young woman with dreams, laughter, and limitless potential. She should have been preparing for exams, attending sorority events, and planning her future, not becoming a statistic in the tragic cycle of violence against women. Her story demands more than just reflection. It demands action. Universities must go beyond issuing statements and candlelight vigils. Real change means rethinking how we educate young people about consent, reinforcing protective policies in campus environments, and holding both individuals and institutions accountable for the safety and well-being of students. Madison's death has mobilized lawmakers, students, and citizens alike to question long-standing cultural norms about drinking, party culture, and predatory behavior. These conversations, though difficult, are absolutely necessary to prevent similar tragedies in the future. For viewers and communities across the country, Madison's story is a reminder that safety is a collective responsibility. It begins with personal accountability, but must be supported by robust systems, legal, educational, and social, that prioritize the protection of all individuals, especially those most vulnerable. We must teach young people to respect boundaries, to look out for one another, and to recognize that silence or inaction can be as harmful as direct involvement in wrongdoing. These are not just moral lessons, they are life-saving ones. The murder of Madison Brooks on her way home represents a tragic intersection of premeditated violence and vulnerability. The investigation showcased modern forensic techniques, with digital evidence proving crucial in tracking both victim and killer. The case highlights how quickly violence can unfold. It also demonstrates the particular dangers faced by vulnerable college students walking home alone at night, especially when drunk. Madison Brooks' legacy lives on not only in the lessons her case teaches about safety and vigilance, but in the lives she touched during her few years, particularly her family and friends, who carry forward her resilience, warmth, and determination. Let us honor Madison Brooks, not by allowing her memory to fade into another headline, but by ensuring her legacy drives real and lasting change. Let her life inspire us to be vigilant, compassionate, and courageous in the face of injustice. If one life can spark national conversations and inspire preventative action, then Madison's light, though extinguished too soon, still shines with purpose. May she rest in peace, and may her story serve as a beacon for safer, more responsible communities everywhere.
Thanks, defense lawyers and prosecutors behind closed doors in the rape case of LSU student Madison Brooks.
4 people were arrested and charged with rape and other charges after a night of drinking at a bar in Tigerland. Brooks was dropped off in a nearby neighborhood and died after being hit by a passing car. One of the suspects, Kason Carver, is charged with rape and video voyeurism. News 2's Beth Casterly in the investigative unit at the courthouse for today's hearing. She's here with us with the details.
Sylvia, today's hearing was closed to everyone other than those immediately involved with the case. However, according to the defense, the outcome has the potential to derail the state's case.
Make sure everything's good, case, and I'm proud of it.
A perceived win for the defense Tuesday for one of the men indicted for raping Madison Brooks. Judge Gail Ray ruled that the state must turn over certain evidence to the defense.
I can't talk about the substance because it was a closed hearing. I can tell you that we were happy with the judge's ruling and the state is appealing it, but I can't get into the substance of it at all.
In March, Kason Carver's attorney, Joe Long, filed a motion that alleges an unidentified LSU student had sex with Brooks prior to her encounter with Carver and the 3 other men. The DA's office adamantly opposed that information being used at trial, the defense saying it would gut the state's theory of the case. Following today's ruling, the district attorney's office says they are working to provide the defense with the digital evidence they are, quote, legally entitled. The state says it is already providing the defense with all the names of the witnesses interviewed during the investigation. District Attorney Hiller Moore released a statement saying he's very limited as to what he can comment on, adding, quote, the state and victim's family want to move this matter forward to trial. However, not at the expense of jeopardizing a trial that is fair. He did not elaborate further. Carver is charged with rape and video voyeurism, though there is no evidence he ever had sex with Brooks.
He is innocent. He didn't do anything.
He's one of 4 men facing similar charges who were with Brooks that night. Brooks was killed by a car after the men dropped her off.
When you or someone you love finds themselves in a vulnerable or dangerous situation, whether it involves sexual assault, harassment, or any form of abuse, it is crucial to know that help is available. Victims often feel isolated, ashamed, or afraid to speak out, but resources exist specifically to provide support, protection, and guidance in these moments of crisis. In the United States, one of the most vital lifelines is the National Sexual Assault Hotline, operated by RINN Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. Victims can call 1-800-656-HOPE for 673 at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The call is free, confidential, and connects individuals with trained professionals who can listen without judgment, offer emotional support, and help victims understand their options, including medical care, evidence collection, and reporting the assault. For immediate emergencies, especially if someone is in danger, the fastest course of action is to call 911. Whether it's to report an assault, suspicious behavior, or to request police intervention, calling 911 can bring swift assistance. Victims who may not feel safe making a voice call can also consider texting emergency services in areas where 911 texting is available.
And in just 2 days, it will be the 1-year anniversary of LSU student Madison Brooks' death. You'll remember she was hit and killed by a car last year in Baton Rouge. Her mother is speaking out this morning, discussing the moments leading up to her daughter's death and how it has sparked advocacy work. WDSU reporter Anam Siddiqui sat down exclusively with the grieving mother on her new mission.
Dear Maddie, first I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. I know you are celebrating right next to Jesus in heaven.
Ashley Bousterd reading a Christmas letter to her late 19-year-old daughter, Madison Brooks.
Every day is a struggle, but I still have to live. I have to be a mother. Maddie has 2 younger brothers, Aiden and Brady.
In January 2023, police say Brooks died after a night of drinking at Reggie's Bar in Tigerland on LSU's campus. Police reports show Brooks was dropped off at a subdivision, then hit and killed by a car. Her case is ongoing as 4 suspects face charges for rape and as Bousterd takes legal action against Reggie's Bar.
Hope. I want to have hope.
Bousterd now finding purpose by advocating for the safety of young people through the Madison Brooks Foundation.
My goal is to ensure that no other family experiences this horrific loss that we face this year.
The foundation honors Maddie nationally, but at home, her memory shines bright.
The times I've been the most happy have been spent with you, and I'll always cherish those precious memories.
Anam Siddiqui, WDSU News.
Many college campuses also have their own crisis response systems, including campus police, student advocacy centers, and confidential support counselors. Students like Madison Brooks should be able to rely on their universities for protection. Yet too often, these systems fall short. That's why it's important for students and families to familiarize themselves with campus-specific safety resources like emergency blue light phones, mobile safety apps, and escort programs for walking home at night. Finally, victims can also reach out to local hospitals, women's shelters, or community advocacy centers, many of which offer immediate care, emotional counseling, and legal support, free of charge. No one should suffer in silence. Every voice matters. Every life is worth protecting. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Lat True Crime Stories. Your engagement helps us continue bringing these important cases to light. Share this video with someone who might benefit from the safety lessons within Madison Brooks' story. You never know whose life might be saved through awareness. In the comments, I want to hear your thoughts. What additional safety measures do you think could protect vulnerable individuals in similar situations? Your insights might help others. Turn on notifications so you never miss our new uploads, because understanding these cases could literally save lives. Until next time, stay safe.